Despicable Me was a great success for both Illumination Studios and Universal Pictures when it initially came out in 2010, and we can hardly believe that it will now be more than a decade since the first movie came out. But where has Vector been all these years? Well, without further ado, let's watch the video to know the answer. How did Vector reach the moon? Little is known about Vector, the villain fighting with Gru for the moon, since the first Despicable Me. While numerous villains have appeared in the series subsequently, like El Macho in Despicable Me 2 and Scarlet Overkill in Minions, Vector, Jason Segel, is undoubtedly the most well-known and intriguing villain to face Gru, Steve Carell, and his minions. Surprisingly, for much of the film, he's able to stop Gru at every step, being dressed in an orange tracksuit and wielding a squid launcher and a piranha pistol. Vector was introduced in the movie as the new biggest villain ever when he steals the Pyramid of Giza without anybody noticing, and he is hailed as the next big thing in the bad guy society. The aspiring supervillain is able to grab the moon from Gru after knowing his plan to use a shrink ray to steal it. In an attempt to retaliate, Gru adopts 3 girls and uses them to distract the great villain with cookies while he and the minions successfully recover the shrink ray. It seems like Gru was aware of the excessive fondness of Vector for the cookies. Later, it's revealed that he's the son of Mr. Perkins, the director of the Bank of Evil, who consistently rejects Gru's loans to carry out the theft. Towards the end of the movie, Gru is successful in shrinking the moon. However, upon returning to Earth, he discovers that the supervillain has kidnapped his adopted daughters, Margot, Agnes, and Edith, as leverage for the moon. As the supervillain tries to flee with both the moon and the girls, Dr. Nefario, Russell Brand, and the minions discover that the shrink ray's effects are only temporary, and the moon grows again and goes back into orbit. While we all thought Vector had won the fight, Gru proved us wrong. Gru saves the girls, but what about Vector? Yes, you guessed it right. The supervillain was left alone on the moon. Though Vector appears to be a spoiled and immoral villain, it's more likely that he is only trying to please his father by continuing the family tradition of being a villain. But what has become of the supervillain since then? Is the supervillain still alive on the moon? Vector most likely stayed on the moon after what happened between him and Gru, as the escape velocity on the moon is roughly 2.4 kilometers per second, which is quite impossible to attain without any special equipment. Even if he had fled by wearing his suit, he wouldn't have returned to Earth. Ignoring the moon's low temperature, the Earth's mesosphere temperature is negative 120 degrees Celsius. In comparison, the thermosphere temperature is 2,000 degrees Celsius, which is only feasible for specialist aircraft. At the end of the animated movie, the supervillain could definitely not survive that long on the moon, as he was stranded on the moon with just a plastic bubble around his head to provide oxygen. Not only that, the villain clearly didn't bring food, and his stay on the moon was certainly unplanned, as we all know that the moon does have some atmosphere, but one can't breathe in it due to its gaseous form. Pertaining to that, Vector would have run out of oxygen and died eventually, but the team apparently overlooked this for the sake of ratings. With his introduction to the Anti-Villain League, AVL, in Despicable Me 2, Gru was shown to have access to information of previous villains of the AVL as followed over the years. According to those files made accessible on the Despicable Me 3 Blu-ray extras, Vector appeared to be still trapped on the moon. As per the file, he was seen as a moving orange dot that is visible through the telescope on a clear night. In the movie's last scene, we see Vector dancing on the moon along with a floating minion to the music played at the end. The supervillain appears to be alive and well on the moon's surface, but how he is still alive is unknown. Does Vector's exit from the movie depict a dark ending? As the adorable minions of Despicable Me took the spotlight in the movies, most of the viewers probably forgot how gloomy the movie's ending was. The story featured 2 supervillains, Gru and Vector, who were rivals to each other. We see these 2 villains attempting to steal the moon. We know it sounds ridiculous to you, but it can have such an outrageous storyline since it's a kids' movie. The entire movie involves shrink rays and crazy shenanigans, but it ultimately ends with Vector stuck on the moon by himself. A sequence of all the characters dancing appears in one of the film's final scenes, and Vector is seen boogieing down on the moon at his was never seen or heard from again. While some fans thought that Vector's exit from the movie was funny, some viewers still believe that the amount of violence shown in the kids' movie and the failure to portray realistic repercussions of violence certainly depict a dark ending of its first sequel. Well, we surely agree that this movie showed a great deal of violence. Can we expect Vector to return in Despicable 4? As the upcoming Despicable Me movie Minions: The Rise of Gru is a sequel, we don't expect the present storyline of Gru to be addressed in the Despicable Me 4, which is all set to release in July 2024. However, although no antagonists have been brought back in the series so far, Vector's reappearance in a future episode may not be out of the question. The great villain was a worthy adversary for Gru, and he managed to outsmart him on multiple occasions. But unfortunately, his technical zeal might resurface at some point in the future to be used for even more evil plans. But only time will tell if he will ever be able to return to Earth. Other related news: Despicable Me 4 is set to hit the cinemas in July 2024. According to Universal Pictures and Illumination, you still haven't seen the last of Gru and the Minions, as Despicable Me 4 is all set to premiere on July 3rd, 2024. Steve Carell, Kristen Wiig, Pierre Coffin, Miranda Cosgrove, and Steve Coogan will play their parts in the animated movie about the supervillain and his army of yellow-colored, adorable minions. Chris Renaud, who directed the previous 2 Despicable Me films, returns to direct the 4th. Mike White will write the script, and Patrick Delage will be the co-director. There are no details regarding the movie yet, but we expect wacky shenanigans from Gru, Lucy Wilde, Margot, Silas Ramsbottom, and a number of little minions. The good news hasn't ended there. We're very excited to announce that Minions: The Rise of Gru, the second Despicable Me spin-off, will be released in cinemas on July 1st, 2022, after being delayed for 2 years due to the pandemic. The movie follows Gru's childhood adventures as he strives to join the Vicious Six supervillain squad. 2 Despicable movies in a row? I mean, what else do we want? Why did Al Pacino leave Despicable Me 2? Al Pacino, the famous American actor and filmmaker, recorded several of Eduardo's dialogues before it was reported that he and Illumination Universal Pictures had reached an agreement to part ways. Unfortunately, Pacino's exit from Despicable Me 2 happened only a few weeks before the film's premiere, so Benjamin Bratt decided to step in with little notice. Fortunately, Bratt had prior expertise in the field of animated films after providing the voice for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Illumination and Universal Pictures claimed creative differences as the main reason for Pacino's exit in a pretty unclear statement. However, the representatives of the comedy series stated that Universal and Illumination are thankful to Al Pacino for his numerous contributions to the movie. They look forward to a new actor bringing this unforgettable character to the screen when it releases this summer. Many Despicable Me fans were perplexed over the recasting problem. Why would Pacino quit if he had already recorded most of Eduardo's parts? Some suspected that the actor considered the job too low for him. Others also believed that the lines were too bad to read. Some fans even speculated that voicing an animated supervillain couldn't have been much worse for him. Whichever the reason was, we hope Al Pacino all the best for the future. Minions: The Rise of Gru from Universal will start off the Annecy Animation Festival. You'd be thrilled to hear that Minions have finally made a comeback and are being celebrated with a global premiere at the Trendsetter Festival Annecy International Animation Film Festival. Annecy is the world's leading animated film festival, and it is a popular occasion for studios and independents to premiere new projects. The highly anticipated Minions prequel, called The Rise of Gru, will kick off the festival on Monday, June 13th, with a screening at the Grand Salle de Bonlieu. The second series of the movie covers the childhood of Gru, the world's greatest supervillain, and his minions, who formed cinema's most despicable crew and fought against the criminal supergroup the Vicious Six. After a number of delays caused by the COVID-19 epidemic, Minions: The Rise of Gru will finally make its world premiere at Annecy before a July 1 release in the United States. Of course, being a crazy fan of the Minions, we just can't wait to see the sequel of this chucklesome movie. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on Vector's survival on the moon? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.